First off, I am thoroughly shocked and disappointed at the lack of attention that the anime community has given this masterpiece of an opening. So, it's my job today to bring this opening to you in a brand new light that you may not have thought about in the first place. Before we get into this video, there are two terms that I need you guys to understand. The first is the red string of fate. You've most likely seen this numerous times in anime without even realizing it. Similar to what we in the West call a soulmate, the red string of fate is the idea that the gods tie a red thread around the pinky fingers of those who are destined to be lovers, regardless of the time, place, or the circumstances. It is said that this string will never break and is everlasting. The world of Koito Uso, or Love and Lies, is set in a time where the government has perfected a matchmaking system. It is so accurate that it has been nicknamed the red string of science, which is the second term I need you guys to understand. Throughout this video, I will be using the terms red string and red thread interchangeably. These two phrases are the same, so please don't get confused by the swapping of them. Now that you understand these terms, go and grab yourself something to snack on and put this opening song on repeat, because Frederick did a fantastic job on this song, and that's coming from a guy who has watched this opening more than 200 times. So, now that that's out of the way, let's get right into the video. We open up to a black and white scene where we are first introduced to Misaki, the girl that the main character Nejima has been in love with since elementary school. And we're also introduced to Ririna, who is Nejima's assigned marriage partner, both of whom have a red string attached to their pinky fingers. Now, this is debatable, but the most popular opinion seems to be that the red string attached to Misaki's finger is the red string of fate, whereas the red string attached to Ririna's finger is the red string of science. However, the more we dig into this intro, the more there are moments that may suggest otherwise. Also, the choice of the director here to use black and white scenery with the red string of fate being the only visible color is really important. Not only is it visually appealing, but there are two ways that we can take this. One is that they want our attention to focus solely on the thread, or two, which is a little more deep. Black and white in film often represents a variety of aspects. Shifts in time are a common practice of black and white shooting, so for the red string to be the only colorful thing here may mean that they are trying to imply that the red string of fate is an everlasting, unchanging force that is absolute and will exist throughout time and is more important than any of the people that it may connect. Also, notice how Misaki is facing toward us in her introduction, whereas Ririna has her back turned to us, because that's gonna be important later on down the road. We then get a transition to Nejima, who is basically playing double dutch jump rope with the strings of fate, which is obviously symbolizing him dodging the feelings of the girls and being indecisive. However, his indecisiveness is certainly understandable, and much like jumping rope or playing double dutch, his evasiveness of the feelings of these two girls come from a childlike place inside of him. With him only being 16 years old, Nejima hasn't had very much life experience, and there is still very much innocence inside of him, which makes him think that everything will work itself out in the end without him doing anything, or that the world will somehow accept the way that he thinks and that there won't be any drawbacks because of that. Also, it's kinda hard to tell, but towards the last seconds of him jumping, it looks like another thread pops up from the bottom of the screen. So that could potentially be signaling another love interest, maybe Nisaka? Since the thread came out of nowhere and it only lasted for a few seconds, it makes sense that most of us didn't even know it existed, much like Nisaka's feelings for Nejima. Nejima doesn't know that Nisaka has whatever feelings that he has for him, and we the audience only know because of the split-second scene that we got from episode 3. So since Nejima doesn't know about the feelings, he can't dodge them. They're just kind of there in the background. After that, we get a flash of the main cast, each bearing different colors, which I won't even step into because depending on how you view these characters and their personalities, then the symbolism of the colors can change, so I'll leave all that speculation up to you. At this point, we finally make our way to the regular colored world. The red string of fate is flowing through the sky and it shows itself being connected with Nejima, until he gets a notification on his phone and it disappears. Right here is representative of the first episode when Nejima and Misaki confess their feelings to each other. The two are in a place of true bliss until Nejima gets his marriage notice that changes everything. Nejima then stands up and he looks to the sky where we see another string of fate. Now, this can be taken one of two ways. One, since the string that was connected to him disappeared, we can assume that this is the other string that is connecting him to someone else, most likely the other girl. Or two, we can assume that since this thread also disappears after he looks up, that it is the exact same thread that we just saw disappear, but now it's completely disappearing from his life. This next scene is one that I somehow completely overlooked since I didn't know the entire story of this show going in. We get a view of a rainy, stormy sky from a classroom window, and we see Nisaka draw a line through the fogged up window. After he draws this line, his face changes and becomes extremely dreary. As I said before, I didn't know the story of this coming in, so it didn't make sense to me, but now that I do understand, it makes perfect sense. In the line that he draws, Nisaka sees Nejima and Misaki together being happy and laughing, the person that he has feelings for being together with someone else. On another note, it's pretty interesting to note that the line that he draws connects him and Nejima together, but Misaki stands in the way of the two being directly connected. The use of the rain and the foggy windows here were the perfect way for the creators to put us inside of Nisaka's mind even before we met him, and overall it just made for a really nice shot. We get an extension of that scene where Misaki and Nejima are together laughing and being happy with their blurred out classmates in the back. And then we immediately pan over to Ririna, who is in her classroom. This is the first time that we have seen her since the world has been in color, but note that her back is still turned to us at this point. Much like they have told us inside the show, Ririna is completely alone and has no friends. Look a little closer at this scene though. Notice that there is brightness coming through the window of her classroom. It is a very natural light that we can see reflects on the blackboard and the desk as well, so we can see that the sun is shining outside. Compare this to the scene with Misaki that we just had when it was raining outside. This symbolism will make itself known again later down the road, so we'll come back to it. Next, we get a few fast-paced images of the family and friends of the main cast and a few images of some things that will come into play later on in the manga, such as Nejima laying on the ground hurt and the cell phone image with these two familiar looking characters. Now, here is where things finally start to connect. We get a look into Nejima's mind and some of the moments that he has had with Misaki. But as those images are showing, the song in the background repeats the words kanashi. The word kanashi is a Japanese word that translates to sad or sorrowful. This is followed by a scene that has the red string of fate lying abandoned and lifeless on a road, and again, as you'll notice, it's raining outside. Rainy weather is most often coincided with sadness and depression. This is another time where Misaki is literally connected with the word sad and with the rain. I think that we are being told very blatantly that Nejima knows that a life with Misaki may lead them both to sadness, depression, and hardships. Compare that to all of his memories of Ririna, where all of the images are met with the song repeating the word ureshi, which translates to the word happiness. And again, the next thing that we get is a sunny scene set in a field with the thread attached to flowers that are blowing in the wind. possibly signaling that the winds of change have already started to take place in Nejima's life, and that he may have more feelings for Ririna than even he realizes. It just can't be coincidental that the director chose to use these specific pieces of imagery and this music at these exact parts. This has to have a deeper meaning. But the next scene we get takes it even further. The next scene with the 4 main characters walking is without a doubt one of the most informative scenes in the opening. Let's start with Misaki. Now, I've watched this scene over 200 times already, and I'm still a little bit conflicted. It's hard to tell if Misaki is looking back at Nejima as he walks, or if that's just the way his eyes are drawn. It would make more sense if he was looking back at Nejima because of the feelings he has for him, but either way we'll get the same result. Next, let's look at Misaki. The first thing that I noticed about her was the look on her face. Her whole aura is gloomy and she looks extremely depressed. The next thing I noticed is that there are clouds around her. Again, possibly alluding to the sorrow and hardships that she represents. Next, let's take a look at Ririna, who is walking with a very cheerful look on her face as she continues forward. Notice how the clouds start to go away where she is walking. And if you haven't got it yet, let's finally take a look at Nejima, who had the most animation during the scene. He starts off with his head down as he is walking, but eventually holds his head up high and walks towards the sunshine, leaving the clouds behind. Sunshine and clouds. Happiness and sadness. The past versus the future. Another important thing to take away from this is the order in which they are walking. Nejima and Ririna are the closest together in the center of the group, and Misaki and Misaki are the outliers. If we dig just a little bit deeper into this, we can gather even more information. Misaki is admiring Nejima from afar without him knowing it, much like he has been doing this entire opening and just like he does in the show. And then we have Misaki in the back. Misaki now has no choice but to watch Ririna and Nejima become closer and closer as she starts to feel as she is being left behind, much like she has been fearing will happen inside of the show. This opening berates us non-stop with symbolism. The song finally hits its climax and we are greeted with a scene of a starry night sky complete with firefly lights, which is no new idea in anime. We have seen numerous scenes identical to this one where characters profess their love, a place where pure love starts, which is no surprise when you consider how well liked fireflies are in Japanese society. We are then greeted with 2 hands. These hands are obviously Ririna and Nejima. Ririna reaches out to grab Nejima's hand, and at first he hesitates, but finally embraces her hand. Now why? Why would the animation team waste their time animating such a small action that lasted for not even a fraction of a second unless it was gonna be important? Much like he was hesitant to grab her hand, he was also hesitant to accept their marriage notice. I believe that Nejima is finally starting to accept Ririna and the chances of a life together with her as a viable option for his future. Then we get a shot of Misaki and Shu, who we will find out later actually knows about the original notice that Nejima got, making Misaki his assigned partner, before we transition right back into the firefly scene with all 4 of the main cast holding hands as they stare at the fireflies, all pondering about the love that they have inside their hearts and the best way to make it come true. To be young and in love again. The next scene is where this opening finally starts to wind down. The next scene has Nejima holding multiple strings of fate with a very melancholic look on his face as he finally holds them tightly and looks up towards the sunshine, finally making his decision about what he has to do. Compared to the way that he was dodging the girl's feelings and the red strings in the beginning of this opening, he has matured quite a bit. On a small little note, I want to bring up the fact of how the sun is again being used as symbolism as moving towards the future. Next, we see two strings of fate, both covered in what appears to be snow. But one of them emerges from the snow, which I'm certain the director is using to tell us that Nejima has finally figured out what he has to do and who he has to choose. This is followed by an image of Ririna and a memory of Misaki when they were kids. Again, the past versus the future. Which one will Nejima choose? The final scene of this opening is something that I didn't pay very much attention to until the very end of writing this script. Now, there's a few things to take note of here. Nejima is in his school outfit, in his classroom that we have seen him in many times, and he's talking to someone. After he talks to them, his face goes from having a smile to looking very worried, and afterwards, he starts to move closer to the person. As he moves closer, the scene goes out of focus and we see eyelashes. We are seeing this scene through the eyes of none other but Misaki. As she blinks, tears come out of her eyes. We can't be certain, but there's a high chance that these tears are tears of sadness, which is why Nejima looked so worried. So whatever he said to her seemingly upset her deeply. The very last things we see are the tears of Misaki. In these tears we see the main cast again. If you look closely, then you'll notice. Again, Nisaka and Misaki are on the outside, with Ririna and Nejima being closer, which may have been the thing that he told her that upset her the most in the first place. But that brings a close to this opening. This opening was a roller coaster of emotions, and it has a lot going on inside of itself. Once this series finishes, I have a probably equally as long video that I'm gonna make detailing everything about it, so please look forward to that. Anyways, if you guys have enjoyed this video, as always, please hit that like button and be sure to comment down below and let me know. Make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with all of my other videos. And hey, until the next video guys, best wishes.